Hello everyone, welcome to Inconvenient Truths. I'm your host, Jennifer Zeng. I often get a question from viewers, why don't Chinese people rise up and fight back against the CCP? So I will try to answer this question after giving some updates on the COVID situation in Beijing and Shanghai. By the way, I forgot to mention that my main YouTube channel was banned for 2 weeks after receiving 2 strikes from YouTube. So I can only use my backup channel now. Not many people have subscribed to my new channel yet, so a lot of people will be missing my new videos for 2 weeks. Please do help me spread the news so that more people know about my backup channel. It feels so bad that I'm experiencing this kind of suppression here in the US, which has been called the beacon of freedom. But I won't be silenced, so please support and help me. Now, let's move on to our usual business. First of all, a Shen Yun video.
Oh, the show is phenomenal.
This is the best ever.
The way I look at Shen Yun is this heavenly experience. I have never seen in my life so many amazing dancers, so many amazing and beautiful costumes.
Everything in the movements and the smile and the emotion. Absolute perfection. I just have chills, can you tell?
The music is really extraordinary.
It sounded like it was pre-recorded. It was hard to believe it was actually live music. It was so perfect.
There's no other company in the United States that does this.
My heart was touched tonight.
I love every moment, especially the message of the Chinese ancient culture.
That comes from our creator, and I can feel that in my heart and in my soul.
Our kids are 6 and 8 years old, and they enjoyed it and would like to come back to see it again. Everyone needs to see it. Absolutely everyone.
This is the best ever. I totally agree with the comment of one of the audience. Check the show schedule in your city and buy tickets from shenyun.show/Jennifer-Zeng to save the handling fees. Now let's move to Beijing and watch a video first.
So 给我们小区也封上了，现在通知我们开始做核酸。
So he said,
这小疫情还真厉害，都友们千万注意啊
！It's locked down
哎呀，好嘛
and we are required to do the COVID testing. So the COVID seems really rampant. So everybody please pay attention to this issue. So this is in Chaoyang district in Beijing. So the mass testing started at midnight yesterday, that's April 22nd. A school in Chaoyang district was closed for 7 days after many students were infected. New cases have been found in Shunyi district too. Beijing officials said today, that's April 23rd, that a total of 20 cases of infection have been reported in the city since yesterday. The virus has been silently spreading for a week, and the affected population is diverse, ranging from students, travel groups, and a number of families, and more cases are expected to appear, etc. So that's the situation in Beijing. Now let's go back to Shanghai. Although Reuters reported that Shanghai would achieve its zero COVID goal by April 20th, the reality is the virus is far from being zeroed out. So this is the case chart of Shanghai. They are still reporting thousands of new cases every day. Not only hasn't the lockdown ended, but now a so-called hard lockdown is enforced. So this is an official document from the Shanghai government in Pudong New area issued today. The document says a hard lockdown should be enforced in all communities and buildings that are under the lockdown category. Space for testing sites should be ensured. 24-hour security should be in place, etc. All hard lockdown measures should be in place by midnight today, that's April 23rd, etc. So what is hard lockdown? Let's say a few pictures to get an idea. So this one, this one, this one, and this one. So these are called hard lockdown. I guess they mean hardware physical lockdown. And these are the labels to be put up on the buildings. The red ones say locked down building, and the blue ones say managed and controlled building. I guess they are for buildings under different lockdown categories. Now a short video to show you what is hard lockdown. So that's the hard lockdown. The next video is really heartbreaking. A desperate mother crying and begging for help as 7 of her family members, including 3 little kids, are going to starve to death. Please make sure you read the English subtitles I added.
不想录这个视频，但是我没有办法了，我的努力都努力完了，因为我们被关在家里1个多月，我来自山东枣庄的，政府发了3次物资，谁家里能存多少粮食，我们就这样在网上也购物，哪里购物就这样吃，一家7口，最小的不到2岁，一个不到6岁，一个不到7岁的小孩。我们家真的会被饿死在上海吗？实在是太难了，邻居给了几次菜吃了，然后到房东地里搞了2次菠菜吃了，搞了1次韭菜，然后挖了几次野菜吃了，连了1缸咸菜都吃了了，实在没办法了，高额的价格物资我们买不起了，没有钱了。然后会饿死在上海吗？我来自山东枣庄了。如果我们一家7口饿死在上海，这个视频为证，实在是太难了。我们在家里不能出去，哪个路口都封死了，面临着就是说 这个病情我们也不敢出去，害怕，因为家里有小孩，怕被传上了，小孩太小了。请大家帮助我一下好吗？实在是太难了，没法活下去了。真有帮助我们的人了，我们也不知道去求助谁。
I could hardly hold back my tears when I translated this video today. I don't know what happened to this family since this mother shared this video online, but what I do know is this social worker got punished after she shared the story of an old woman, a client of hers, who starved to death on April 8th after she even ate her own feces. I shared this story in my last video. Now, the problem is, why is the situation so bad in Shanghai? Many other cities have been locked down too. Wuhan was once locked down for as long as 76 days. But the problem of starvation has never been as severe as it is this time. Also, there have not been so many videos being leaked from other cities either. So why is Shanghai so different? This is a Weibo post by Ye Jingzi. And who is Ye Jingzi? She is the granddaughter of Ye Jianying, who is one of the founding 10 marshals of the CCP's People's Liberation Army, as well as the third chairman of China. So Ye Jingzi is a very typical so-called third-generation red. She said in her Weibo post, "It is impossible that the situation is such a mess if there is no one doing deliberate damage. Things were not as bad in Guangzhou and Shenzhen. How come the situation is such a mess in Shanghai? The loss is even greater than in Ukraine." She also said we should get a logistic team from the Great Bay Area in Shenzhen at the fastest speed to rescue the people in Shanghai. So obviously she is questioning why the situation in Shanghai is such a mess. And her hidden message is very obvious too. There are people doing damage deliberately. Given Ye Jingzi is the granddaughter of the third chairman of China, I think she wouldn't say this without some solid knowledge of the behind-the-scenes power struggles within the CCP. Well, the CCP's mouthpiece, the People's Daily, reported today that Xi Jinping was elected as a delegate to the 20th CCP Congress with a unanimous vote by Guangxi region representatives on April 22. Xi got elected in Guangxi province because it is the CCP's tradition that Central Committee members must be elected by a provincial branch. The report says the fact that General Secretary Xi Jinping was unanimously elected as the representative of the 20th National Congress represents the common will of more than 2.5 million party members and more than 150,000 grassroots party organizations in Guangzhou province. It also fully reflects the heartfelt love of 57 million Guangxi cadres and masses of all ethnic groups for General Secretary Xi Jinping, as well as the common voice and strong desire of hundreds of millions of people to follow the great leader to create a better future, etc. So obviously, the CCP's mouthpiece has started to build up momentum for Xi Jinping to stay in power at the 20th CCP Congress. It is very interesting that even ordinary Chinese netizens get this. Someone asked such a question on Chinese social media called 知乎. When will the lockdown in Shanghai end? One user left such a comment, quote, "We all agree that you stay in power, so please stop tormenting us," unquote. Well, although this user didn't mention Xi Jinping's name in his comment, everybody understands that he or she is referring to Xi Jinping, and that the torment in Shanghai is highly related to Xi's wish to stay in power at the 20th CCP Congress, as well as Xi Jinping's enemies' wish that he owned. That's why they are creating so much trouble for Xi Jinping in Shanghai. As I said in the beginning, I often get questions such as, why don't the Chinese people rise up and fight back against the CCP? Why do people have the courage to end their own lives but don't have the courage to fight back against the CCP? Well, to understand this question, we must, first of all, understand that Chinese society is totally different from societies in the free world. In China, all information and narratives are under tight control. What people can see and receive are all arranged by the CCP. Even their way of thinking and their logic are the results of the CCP's design. Take the COVID and lockdown issues, for example. Through the total control of information and the narrative, the CCP has successfully made Chinese people, or the majority of Chinese people, believe that the lockdown is the only and the best way to control the virus, and China is the safest country to live in after the pandemic. When other countries were reporting tens of thousands of new cases in one day, China only reported very few cases or no cases at all. In the meantime, many so-called mainstream media outlets in the West, for whatever reason in their minds, exaggerated the pandemic and death numbers a lot. And this gave the CCP more reason and evidence to convince the Chinese people that the CCP has been doing the best job in the world for the sake of the Chinese people. And the CCP also made people very fearful of the death counts in other countries. Remember the video we just watched a while ago? The mother cried for help as all 7 members of her family, including 3 little kids, were starving to death. She said at the end of the video that she dared not go out as COVID is so dangerous that she didn't want her children to get infected. In many Chinese people's minds, getting infected almost means the death penalty. Even here in the US, I can feel a special kind of fear among Chinese people who come from mainland China. I didn't feel the same kind of fear from other communities. Only Chinese people who come from mainland China have that kind of fear. Another reason is, after more than 70 years of iron fist rule, the CCP has successfully suppressed people's will to fight back, as there seems to be no hope that any fight back will have any effect other than getting yourself and your family in trouble. The price of fighting back is so high that ordinary people just cannot afford it. Also, the CCP has made many people believe that the biggest human right is the right to live. So as long as you have something to eat, that's good enough. Don't ask anything else. They have a famous sentence, democracy cannot give you a meal, or democracy cannot serve as a meal, meaning that democracy is useless. Only a meal is something good. They also made many people believe that it is the CCP that feeds the people, not the other way around. So why don't Chinese people rise up and fight back? For one, they haven't realized that they should fight back. They think they are doing well or doing okay, or things have to be this way. And for two, they dare not fight back as they see no hope of success. In other words, people in China seem to be living in another world, a parallel world that is totally different. So you really cannot imagine things in China with your life experience of living in the free world. So does this mean that there is no hope for China at all? There is an old saying in China, 物极必反, which means when things reach an extreme, they can only move in the opposite direction. And there is another Chinese idiom, 否极泰来, which means when things reach the worst status, good things will follow, or out of the depths of misfortune comes bliss, or when misfortune reaches the limit, good fortune is at hand, etc. And there's a third Chinese idiom, 人不治天治, which means if humans don't deal with it or cannot deal with it, heaven will deal with it. So as far as I can see, both Xi Jinping and his political enemies are accelerating the process of the CCP's demise. Other than using more extreme ways to crack down on people, they don't know anything else. So when they reach their extremes, things will have to move in the opposite direction. I only hope that as few people as possible will be dragged down by the CCP when it runs into its dead end. Well, that's all for today. By the way, I have started sending newsletters and program alerts to my members and donors. So please consider signing up for a membership or making a donation at my website at jenniferzengblog.com to get the newsletters and program alerts. Thank you so much for your support. Have a nice weekend and see you next time.